What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Round 7 Game Day Squad Football Show, proudly brought to you by the Game Day Society. I'm joined by Zonald as always.
Oh,
How are we round 7 already? Like this, it seemed like preseason, the lead up to like Game Day Squad football just went on forever. And now we're already
yeah.
round 7. Like
Yeah,
it's
38
crazy
rounds,
time.
obviously. So, like,
Yeah.
lots to go, but yeah, already a decent amount through.
Yeah. And how you been? How was your week?
Good. I think we both went pretty well. And like we
Yeah.
were just saying off stream, it was pretty funny because it's probably the week we least spoke to each other about our teams and made like heaps of changes after we last showed each other teams.
Yeah. And like it was a week where, yeah, I just changed my side so many times up until the buzzer. And then I was like, oh, please tell me I got all my players in. And then I was like, all right, it's done. And that's one thing I kind of like about the game day squad football with the firm lockout is that you have the build up pressure, but then you just get to enjoy the week because you're not trying to focus on, lineups, who's in, who's out. You're just like, okay, this is my team. I'm going to watch some football now.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
getting down to specifics, though, I just wanted to check how you went in the classic competition this week.
I
I don't
think
know
you
if,
know how.
yeah, look,
I figured you had me to like we did some calculations leading into it and after especially after that result, that sort of favoured you and I doing probably 1 and 2,
mhm,
unless somebody had a fair few from either team.
yeah,
Uh, but we'd sort of run the calculations as scores popped up and knew it'd be close, but sort of that you would have it.
yeah. I was kind of almost hoping that it was going to be a draw, or maybe even like one of those ones where it goes down to the. It looks like it's a draw on the
And then it's
screen, but
point
then
something.
you have to go down to Tom's DMs to find out who actually won.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, look, it was a great round, and to come 1-2 is, I think, a pretty impressive achievement in like a competition where there's a lot of players. So it's not like it's just 10 players. So well done coming second, great
Yeah, good for
achievement.
you as well. Coming first. Like, great
Yeah,
work.
and also I think with my first, it's great, but you're consistently doing well. I think you're sitting, what is it, second in a lot of the overall comps, whereas I'm nowhere near that.
Yeah.
So
You are playing the higher comps though, so it's obviously a lot harder with the teams people have gone. Whereas my two second places are the two lower tier comps, and then fifth in classic, albeit
mm,
like, and I think this is the case for most people. I don't think anyone has had 7 good weeks, or well, 6 good weeks
mm,
so far.
yeah,
Um, personally, I've had, and I do a lot of my teams the exact same, which I didn't in challenge in contender this week. Um, but I've had probably 3 bad weeks, which they haven't been the worst. They've been decently bad, whereas my good weeks have been really good weeks.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's nice. And like you say that like I'm playing the higher comps, but the lower comps almost are they're a lot more challenging, I'd say, because it comes down to like you have access to basically every player. So you're having to make the right decisions. Whereas in the higher comps, you're trying to play your best cards and almost just hoping they have a good week. So I'd argue that the lower comps are almost harder to compete in. So no what? Hats off to you. But we'll
Potentially.
yeah. We'll head through to the round that should say round 6 review. I've just noticed it's just this round these weeks are getting away from us. But as we've done previously, we've both gone through the good, the bad, and what we've discovered for the week. I'll cap off with mine. The good was Ollie Watkins off the mark, and I am probably disproportionately excited about this, and maybe even tempted to start bringing him in again, which is probably a bad call. The bad is just Bruno on pens. It's just really frustrating to watch because he's one of those players we've talked about a lot where he kind of gets the stats building up through just the doing his job, and then he has the opportunity on pens, and he's just 3 pens in, what was it, 6 games,
Hmm,
and he's only scored one. So
yeah,
we'll talk about this a lot,
very
I'm sure,
disappointing.
coming up. But yeah, it's a tricky one now. And the final thing of what we've discovered is scoring defenders can absolutely swing the week for you. With was it Gabriel scoring late in the round, kind of propelled us up the leaderboard, I'd say.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
for sure.
and then you got like previous weeks where was it Mitchell scored, I don't know, Matty Cash has scored a goal. It's Timber when he scored a couple. It's just, they're the things that kind of just knock you from a normal week up to a good week. So yeah, what
Even
about you?
Senesi with the assist, like Senesi assisted, like I was high on them not keeping a clean sheet. I know a lot of people were thinking they would, but Senesi's assist just put him up to that territory anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, in terms of mine, late goals for Howland, so would have saved a lot of people. Probably more so in FPL because I figure a lot of people like triple captain and stuff like that. Whereas at least in GameDay Squad, I think he was half decent without those 2 late goals. Still would have been a poor week, but definitely saving his score and catapulting like my team, for example, in Classic right up there.
Yeah, and like funny story. I know we don't talk about FPL on this podcast because it's all about the GameDay Squad, but I did triple captain Haaland in my team, and then I triple captain this week, and then I apparently didn't pick Haaland as my captain, so I've just deleted my team and GameDay Squad it is, and that's why I love GameDay Squad, because you make a mistake one week and you can just go on and still win the weekly prizes. But yeah, the bad for you.
Yeah, Donnarumma's rarity, not the actual like bronze, silver, and whatever, just the scarcity of him. So I sort of knew this as well. So last week on the live, I was saying while it might be good to play him, and it's sort of like maybe a guaranteed 10 points, which it wasn't in the end, that could be a detriment to team as well. And it made me think of removing him before lockout. I didn't end up doing it. I sort of wanted the assured points, which didn't happen. But because is so rare, especially for someone to play him in all formats like I did, with that 2 points he got, literally just from minutes played, because he was down 0 before that, huge, like probably cost me in a couple of the comps there by having him, whereas I could have had someone like Raya and gained a few extra points.
All you did was 2 extra points.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but there's so many of my choices that would have been like that minimal if I'd gone that person or that. So, oh well.
Yeah.
But that does lead nicely onto what I discovered, which is it's getting more and more like it's not worth playing the keepers in like the assured clean sheet games if it's against someone who isn't going to get like many shots on goal. So like your teams that low block, park the bus sort of thing, because if they screw on the counter, then it all of a sudden goes from the Allison like 10 points that he got against Burnley for making no saves, having no involvement in the game, but keeping the clean sheet, to the Donnarumma of still didn't have much to do in the game, but conceded and then only got points for minutes played.
Yeah. No, that's huge. And like there's so many good keepers in those middle tier teams that aren't going to be dominating, who are capable of making the saves and the aerial takes and things like that. So I'm definitely leaning towards that as well. And you'll probably see in our selections later on. But yeah, so what we'll do, as always, we'll run through all of the fixtures, go through who's hot, who's not, maybe some traps, things like that, maybe pods. After that, we'll run through some 5-a-side challenge stuff that we've been doing. We'll take questions the whole episode. If you're in the chat, make sure you chuck them in. We'll keep an eye on it. And then at the end, we're going to do our classic giveaway. This week, we are ripping open 3 common all-star packs. And we're going to do a similar thing to last week, where Zonald picks a row, I pick a row, and the third row of the 9-player pack goes to whoever wins on the wheel. We're doing that 3 times. All you have to do is be involved in the chat. Cutoff is at the end of the fixture reviews, and then I've got Mel in the chat who's going to compile the list, and we'll go from there. So, what everyone's here for, let's jump straight into it. Game 1, Bournemouth versus Fulham. Now, obviously, we're doing the show a little bit earlier than we had been previously, which means a lot of the predicted lineups aren't out yet. But at the end of the day, the predicted lineups are just educated guessing. So the set players we already know are going to be set players, and then the people they pick in the other positions are just educated guesses. So talk me through your candidates in this first fixture. Keeping in mind the start time as well, which I know is going to be probably tricky for
Oh,
a lot of people.
horrible. At least it's not too bad for lineups. Like you can almost, short of an injury, guarantee Semenyo, the popular pick's going to be in there. It's just if you're
Mhm,
going to go for the likes of like Clive or Tavernier that you might be a bit iffy.
mhm.
But so historically, it seems like Bournemouth's a bit of a bogey team for Fulham. I think Bournemouth have won the past 3 times they've met. Semenyo hasn't been that great in them. It's more been former player
Ooh,
Solanke that's done the job. So maybe that means Evan Nilsson might go all right as the striker now. Different
mhm.
sort of player, but will potentially just fill that void. Um, whereas Semenyo did score last time they played, but I think that's the only time in those 3 games. So he could be a potential void, but he's been like one where sort of everyone wants to have him.
Oh God, what's going on with the screen here? That's
There we go.
apologies.
So he sort of might be a necessity again, and one of those players we can just play in because so many other people are playing him. You're not going to cop much of a loss if he does do poorly.
Mhm.
So I'd
Yeah.
say those two. I don't mind the Bournemouth defenders in this one either.
Yep.
They've kept a clean sheet in the past 2 home fixtures against Fulham. So like Petrovic, I think is a good point of difference pick. I don't think a lot of people will go for him. We'll go
Mhm.
for Senesi and Trafford, and I like those two as well. Like Senesi
Yep.
does stuff other than clean sheet, so he'd be a solid pick. And even if they don't keep it, then should still be decent.
Yeah. But Semenyo's got like a lot of good attacking returns this season already. Do you see them kind of getting a few against Fulham, or is it going to
Would
be a tighter kind of defensive
It wouldn't
matchup?
surprise me, like especially if it's very similar to the game last week where they lost 3-1. I think
Mhm.
like it could end up being 3-1 again. It's just a
Yep.
matter of whether he does get involved or whether like it's someone like Evan Nilsson or Clive who's back towards the starting lineup.
Yeah. And jumping over to Fulham, personally for me, Leno's been a pretty popular pick in
Yep.
goals, just been pretty consistent. I've also had some pretty decent legend card of him as well as a few others. But last week, obviously conceding 3,
Mm.
pretty uh, underwhelming score. Um, I just don't think this is the right matchup for him personally, especially with, there's a lot of other matchups which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Um, Anyone else in that Fulham lineup though that tickles your fancy?
Not really. And like it'd be great if Robinson was back playing because he's
Yeah,
so good attacking.
do you know why he's not?
No idea. Like it must be some like I get Tede's been decent to start the year. I think maybe Tede's probably not even on the side he plays now that I think of it. I think it's
Mm,
like left back for him, whereas Tede's the right back. So like it confuses me even more that he's not starting or playing when
yeah,
he's like one of the better fullbacks in the league. So must just be the whole recovering from injury and like the mini preseason while the season's going on.
yeah. So I'm just looking at it. Yeah, it's really not that
Not really. I
great.
think
Yeah.
Castagna played there last week and he rotated in for
Mm,
Sessagon.
yeah. And I think Anderson I've picked a couple of weeks, but probably wouldn't be someone this week, especially
Mm,
again, a lot of tasty matchups, which we'll get to.
yeah,
So, and this game, yeah, it's kickoffs at was it 5 a.m. or?
yeah, it's brutal. Like, it's good that it's not one of those contentious lineups where we sort of would ideally like it before going into lockout.
Mhm. But yeah, so just make sure you have all your sides set for basically Friday night
Yeah,
before you go to
Friday
bed,
night.
probably, unless you are keen to get up early. But jumping through to the next one, we've got Leeds and Spurs. So this game, like Spurs have been a pretty popular, I guess, team in terms of, you've got Charleston, you've got your mids there, Kudus and Chavi now.
Mm,
Defense, keep it like every line you could have a Tottenham player in there pretty comfortably.
yeah.
Um, Looking at the numbers against Leeds, though, obviously newly promoted side, but doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Does that negative like 2.64 uh, compared to average concern you for some of those Spurs midfielders, or do you think it's just their creativity will be able to kind of pass the block?
Just depends. Like, so historically, going back to stats again, their past means,
Mhm.
Spurs have done very well in terms of scoring goals against Leeds. A couple of things to keep in account, though. This is Leeds from back when they had been, like, before they had been demoted and then promoted back up. So, completely different team. So, same with Spurs. Like, it would have been like the Ange era, I think. So, same deal, overly attacking. So, it's, of course, it's going to result in goals.
Mhm.
So, keeping that in mind, Spurs have scored 12 times in the past 3 games against Leeds.
Mhm.
Couple of things. Porro scored and assisted the last time they met, but he was out of the starting lineup for the past game. Not sure if that was rotational related. I reckon so. So he should be back. And then in terms of the goals they did score, it was Kane and Son that were dominant in most of that.
Mhm.
So you just sort of got to pick who you think's going to replicate that if they do score. Like, I liked Simmons' creativity. Will he be rotated again or will he start?
Mhm.
Kudus, I think, is a safer pick because he's played most of the minutes. So maybe you go for him. He's
Yeah.
looked really good this year. So
I
um,
think for me,
yeah,
Kudus probably looks good for, the take-ons and not necessarily even getting the attacking contributions, but it feels like the floor score for him is a lot higher than some of the others purely because, him similar to like Doku, who's gonna be taking on, probably drawing fouls. You can rely on that without the scores.
for sure.
Sorry, quickly just looking at the scores that Leeds have given up to forwards. They've given up a 28 to um, Gyökeres,
Yokeres, yeah.
19 to Saka, 16 to Gomez, 15 to Semenyo. It's like they do give up decent scores.
Yeah.
So I think Charleston could be a decent play here.
I agree, but I think at some point he's going to get rotated out for Solanke, especially now that
Yeah.
he's, I think, back fit. So it worries me continuing to pick him.
Okay.
Same with, like, to be honest, I haven't watched Kudus play for years, and maybe this is just a West Ham younger temperamental thing. He's always got like a red card in him at some point.
Yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
hoping it's just a case of picking Kudus repeatedly because he's going so well. Doesn't I don't pick the week where he just gets sent off for something stupid.
Hmm. Yeah. No, fair. And what about, the Spurs back line? Any temptation there this week?
So that's another thing. Spurs have only got 1 clean sheet in the past 5 against Leeds. Again,
Okay.
take into account they're a lot more attacking under Ange. So with Frank, they've been looked a whole lot better defensively. So
Yep.
I think they're fine to pick from, particularly because Leeds haven't scored too many, other
Hmm.
than that Wolves game. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you could pick them. I'd probably again go for the captain Romero and maybe Vicario if you're certain they're going to keep a clean one. But I'm probably going to go against picking them, uh, and I'm hoping a lot of people do go for Spurs, so I can sort of get an edge if it comes out of it without a clean sheet.
Yeah. It's Leeds have given up some big scores to defenders. They've given up 5 scores above or 22 or above this
Yeah,
season. So there's definitely the potential there. But yeah, again, they're going to come in and out of my side. So Uh, this is the game where I think the defenders are probably more of a lock, and I feel like probably a lot of people would agree here. Arsenal versus West Ham, and before we go too far, we had a question from Janeth in the chat, which I'll bring up now. Saka versus Semenyo. Who who are you liking?
Saka. Semenyo's completely fine. Like, obviously, he's been one of the more informed forwards, and they've both got decent matchups. It's just, yeah, I'd prefer to back Saka in this one when he's fully back from injury.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Um, Arsenal is probably obviously going to be the preferred side here. West Ham have been struggling, giving up a lot of points. Um, how many Arsenal players is too much, do you think?
Yeah, that's the question. And like, it's weird because Arsenal lost their last game against West Ham, and it was at Arsenal's home ground.
Mhm.
They did have Nwaneri, Mourinho, and Trossard as their front three, so can't take too much out of it. And then, like, the 2 games before that were 5-2 and 6-0 wins. So I think that form line's more likely to occur.
Mhm.
Um, they have only kept 1 clean sheet, though, in their past 5 home games to West Ham. So it concerns me a little bit. I reckon it's one of those trends that's probably not going to continue given both teams' forms this year.
Yeah.
The thing that worries me about overpicking Arsenal players, particularly their defenders, is Ben White just returned from injury in that Champions League game. So the chances of Timber either getting rotated from the start or subbed off a lot higher. Calafiore's been same with Lewis Skelly all season. So I'd avoid those two. Gabriel was the one subbed in the Champions League for Arsenal. So I figure he will play the whole game. So I'd lock him in if you think they're going to keep the clean, like I do. David Raya as well, pretty consistent. I doubt he gets rotated out for Kepa at any point. Whereas Saliba, I feel like he could be the one subbed out of this game, especially if they get a half-decent lead. In terms of attackers, though, Saka's had 5 goal contributions in their past 2 meetings. So in those big wins, he tends to perform. And I'd say that means Gyökeres is probably an option because he's probably going to be the one that's on the end of those.
Yeah, and like Gyökeres has been like kind of described as a bit of a almost like a bully in terms of he seems like the player who will absolutely dominate the easy fixtures, but maybe go quiet in the big ones. So this kind of fixture has a hat trick written all over it for me.
Yeah, hopefully with Saka's assists.
Yeah, and what about Eze? Someone who's probably needs to be on our radar, but it's been sitting a little bit quiet.
Yep.
Thoughts like selectable?
So I think he played the Odegaard role last week by memory. So he's definitely can play in a variety of roles, which is good for him because it means more game time. It helps that Maduoke's out for a while. Martinelli's been in all right form off the bench. Trossard's obviously an option there. So it just worries me that he might just get an appearance off the bench. So I'd rather pick other players that are assured and stick with your Saka and Gyökeres up top.
Yeah, and Declan Rice also had a pretty decent game last week from memory. I'll just bring up his score. But
yeah, he's a weird one.
Yeah, he went. What did he go? He scored 20 last week, 20.5. So that's you'd definitely be happy with that. The question in the chat as well, Lockie wants to know about Bowen.
I'd back Arsenal in for a clean sheet over Bowen scoring. So I'd rather play Arsenal defenders than Bowen in attack, and there's probably better options. Like this week, there's so many good attacking options.
Yeah, no, that's definitely where I stand as well. So yeah, we'll push on. Jump through now. United versus Sunderland. So probably the big talking point of the last few games is Bruno's kind of performance in front of the goal, penalty mainly. Do you think his form without the penalties is enough to keep him as a lock in our sides?
Yeah, I think he's fine to play. Like, it's every week he just does the things that get you points, like guaranteed points. And this is a fixture I particularly like for him, not the rest of the team, or maybe Dorgu. Dorgu's the one we'll get to though. So Fernandez, particularly with like key passes and stuff, when he's playing teams that have low blocks or play defensively, he tends to drop deeper, receive the ball, and then he's got the whole field in front of him. So I like him in these games because he's probably just going to accumulate, and then he's every chance of a penalty and hopefully putting it away this time. Got all his weapons back. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I reckon the type of manager that they have, I think he'll have confidence just for him to continue going until he finds his form back. They've got plenty of options who can take him though, so maybe it's a bit of a worry. He does have his full attack and line back though, so plenty of opportunity for some assists too.
Yeah,
which also brings me to Dorgu. Like Dorgu's another accumulator of stats, albeit more the wide ones, so like crosses and tackles and all that sort of stuff. Like even last week they lost 3-1, so he's already losing like 6 points as a defender for that and goals conceded. But he just racks up stats. I think he got a yellow card too, so that with the fouls like another -2. Yet he finished on like 8.75.
Yeah, so it's you're right. He's like you can sit him in there with confidence, I think, and then hope, well, not hope, but like occasionally you'll get the big rewards. So I think I've dropped him, but he'll come back in. I'm pretty confident on saying that. Anyone else? Boimo from United.
Yeah,
Do you see him as like this Sunderland side? They don't tend to concede that many points to forwards and I guess
yeah.
midfielders.
They're one
So
of the better defensive teams.
yeah. So and United have obviously kind of struggled a bit in attack. Um, I'm a bit nervous playing someone like Mbuemo this week. Uh, but yeah, I don't. What about those forwards like the
I think they'll be a
Hunters?
bit of a pod.
Yep.
So like you could play them if you're confident Sunderland won't keep another clean sheet. Even in the game they conceded against Aston Villa, without the red card, they probably keep that clean sheet. So they're very good defensively. I'd be very hesitant at picking United players, and Buemo's probably the one to go for, given he's a midfielder rather than a forward.
Mhm.
Midfield options a bit harder to pick this week than the attackers. Whereas I'm real high on Sunderland. Like I was high on them last week. I went with a defender in one comp and then a goalkeeper in the two other comps. I probably
Mhm.
should have just matched up and like gone for both in all of them. So I'm a bit more confident with that. What tends to worry me with them is Ballard's back from injury. He's been
Mhm.
on the bench the past two. So will he come back in, given their performance last week was really good? Or will he stay out of the lineup and then it's safe to pick any of that back four again? So,
Yeah.
like, even like you might think, oh, but he's a centre back, he'll just drop back into one of those two, so just don't pick them and go for Hume. But Mulier or Mukiele can drop over to the right side,
Yeah.
which takes Hume out. So it's a little bit risky. I think I'm going for Hume or at least considering him this week. Got
Okay.
him in my team at the moment.
Mhm.
Fernandez another one, but I couldn't tell you which one is more likely to drop out for Ballard.
Yeah. And Royce as well. I
Yeah,
assume is
I've got
he
him.
in your side or yeah, he's in mine as well. He's
He'll
like
make saves regardless.
and apart from two bad games, one he went negative, one he scored 4.25. He's gone 25.75, 27.25, 17, and 31. So like the ceiling is definitely there, purely from saves and clean sheets.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure one of those poor games was against Burnley. So one of the like teams that play defensively, counter
Hmm.
attack, low shots against that sort of thing. Whereas like even with United, as like poor as their form's been, they're gonna get shots on goal with the team they have and the attackers they have. And
Hmm.
Royce has shown when he gets shots on, he saves a fair few. So he's gonna like get a couple of points here or there from just those.
Yeah. No, sweet. We'll jump through to the next one, which is big game, Chelsea versus Liverpool. Obviously the red card last week for Chalobah is
Yep.
gonna. He's out this week, or did he serve it? I'm not sure.
Well, Champions. I don't think it counts for
No,
Champions
I
League. They didn't play a cup, did they, during the week?
don't think so. No.
Yeah.
So
So I think he's banned for this one.
yep.
Makes Liverpool's job a little easier, but the thing about these fixtures, no matter the team that's out, is because of the rivalry, they're always going to be pretty tight and close. Both teams
Hmm.
playing pretty, like, I wouldn't call it negative football, but similar sort of vein, like just testing one another out and waiting for one to score. Then it might open up a bit. Um,
Yeah.
like Liverpool actually haven't beaten Chelsea at home in the past 7 fixtures there.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
5 have had 2 or less goals in those 7 games. So it's not
Mhm.
like a high scoring affair or anything. We've already got like one of the number one players, Palmer, ruled out for it until after the international break. I don't like the João Pedro matchup against like Van Dijk and Canate. Like
Mhm.
aerial duels, he's going to get bodied and that sort of thing. Albeit like Chelsea don't concede a lot of aerial duel wins. So at the same time, like you might consider Van Dijk or Canate a good pick. I just think like Chelsea don't put it in the air enough for that to happen, which makes sense. They're
Mhm.
a good team. So
Yeah.
it's hard to really justify anyone in this game as you would for
One.
tight games.
Yeah. What I have who's crossed the radar is Enzo, potentially. Just because pretty consistent, like floor
Yep.
scoring, similar to like a Bruno kind of player. with scoring. But it's just this kind of matchup. I just don't like. I guess in this matchup as a midfielder, clean sheet doesn't matter, so we don't
Yeah.
have to worry about that. It's just whether he can get involved attackingly. If he can actually get some of those stats, I don't know. So
Yeah. I feel like he has a better chance in the attacking role because he's going to play the Palmer role, especially since Pedro's forced to play striker with that lack of options there. Unless
mhm,
Mark where he starts.
mhm.
Like it
He's-
could be a game where you go for the keeper because it's going to be a close one. And
yeah.
like I've considered going down that route as a bit riskier of go the 50-50 game. The
Who
keeper who keeps the clean sheet will probably score decently if there is one.
Yeah, well, who do you pick though? Because Allison, I
Yeah.
think, is injured. Hey, I think he
Yeah,
was.
Mamastovili or Sanchez as long as he's not
But then
rotated out.
that's the thing. Do you take a
Yeah.
punt on Sanchez, or I don't know? Um, Now, someone who's definitely dropped off a lot this season is Mo Salah. Um, is that a sign that maybe he's coming less relevant based on the Liverpool setup, or do you think it's just form, or do you think load up on him while he's cheap?
Yeah, well, I'm of the like a couple of things. Like we've gotten a better attack now, so he's relied on less. The usage rate has probably gone down of him. The
Mhm,
other couple of things is with certain fullbacks. Salzburg's played heavy minutes at right back this season. It means Mo Salah sticks very far wide when that sort of player plays, and a little bit when Bradley does. It's way better to pick Salah if you're assured Frimpong's going to start at right back, but that's hard to know because Frimpong will overlap. Mo Salah cuts inside, and will score a lot better doing that sort of thing.
mhm.
It's just he can't really accumulate much, can't score unless there's a penalty from that wide spot, especially when he's coming up against low block or high defensive teams, which has been the trend recently against like the Palace types or the Burnley types. So I wouldn't rule him out completely. It's just I wouldn't be picking. I didn't pick him in the last few games, and I wouldn't be picking him in this game.
Yeah. Like he's only scored once over 13 and a half this season, which compared to last season is just, bonkers.
Yeah.
One last question about Chelsea I had was, do we know who's on pens for them with Palmer out?
So what I heard was when they last had one, I don't know if there's been one since, that João Pedro gave it to Enzo Fernandez. He was going to
Okay.
take it, but he gave it to Enzo Fernandez. So I don't know how true that is. And like we only have to worry about it for like a week if Palmer's straight back into the
Mm,
lineup. But I just wouldn't rely on either. Like Fernandez is a half decent pick and maybe a pod this week
mhm.
because if he does end up on the pens and we can see or Liverpool can see one, then he's going to score fairly decently like he did last week.
Yeah. So with the suspensions as well, Pedro got the red in the Champions League,
Yeah.
but that doesn't carry over to the Premier League, right?
Nah, it'll
No.
just be Champions League.
So he's okay to play.
I'm pretty
It's just
certain. Just double check, but I'm pretty certain that doesn't
yeah,
carry over between those two.
yeah. It's just whether you actually do want to play him, I guess, is the question. So pushing ahead so we can get going. Aston Villa versus Burnley. Now, these are probably two of the teams that you'd be wanting to match up against. So, how do you see this one going?
It's a weird one. Like I actually think a lot of people are going to try to target this. Like either way, they might have
Mhm,
reasoning like, "Oh, Burnley probably keep a clean sheet because Aston Villa have done not much attacking wise, apart from
mhm,
last week." Whereas some might go, "Oh, Villa are back in form. Let's go for them." I'm on the more side of Villa are back in form.
mhm.
However, Burnley have tended to be a brick wall when it comes to teams they think are half decent.
Yep.
So Watkins has um, a lot of goal contributions recently. So in the past 5 games, he's like had a goal contribution each of them bar one. So I
Mhm.
reckon he's a decent enough pick, and he might be a bit of a pod given how many good forward options there are this week, and maybe people rate like them above him. But I also think on the other side of things, like they could fall back into that because of how deep Burnley defend, and their
Mhm.
creativity's been very poor the whole season. So someone like Dubravka might be a half decent pick for goalkeeper in a week where there's, I would say, not many assurities when it comes to that position.
Yeah. And what about Burnley? There's one player who's, I mean, definitely stood out for them as a option, and that's Jaden Anthony,
Yeah,
who's done some like crazy scores for someone in a newly promoted side who's kind of struggling a little bit.
yeah.
11, 25.5, 11, 6.5, 25.5, 23.5. Like that's, you know, bonkers. Is he like a genuinely good player? I haven't actually watched any Burnley games, so yeah.
So a couple of things. He suits Burnley's play down to a T. Like the way he plays is very good for a counter-attacking team. He's the
Mhm,
sort of player that, like, if he got a big transfer to another team, he might struggle a bit depending on their game style.
mhm,
But he's decently young, I'm pretty sure. So like, could be completely wrong on that. But because he suits that so well, they use him a lot. Most of the time when they go on forward, it goes through him, and he's quite a good dribbler in the sense of like Jack Grealish style.
yeah,
So he does accumulate a little bit. If they end up scoring off the counter, it's mainly through him, whether that's a goal or an assist.
mhm,
So if you think Villa will concede, which I think this might be like a 1-1, 2-2 situation, then
mhm,
I wouldn't mind going for him as a pod. It just comes back to the whole thing of, I'm pretty sure he's a forward in this game. It comes back to the whole, there's so many good forward options this week, and I've got like 5 that I'm choosing between because they're such good players and
yeah,
they've got good fixtures.
yeah, and they're like their floor seems a lot. Even though his floor has been, you know, very good compared to
Yeah,
probably the people we think have better floors. He's someone who I can see having a like a 4 game or like a,
yeah.
you know, a relevant game. Um, is there anyone else from Burnley side? Uh,
Nah, Dubravka, the only one I can think of that we mentioned.
yeah.
But just the way they set up isn't. I know there's a lot of stats related to that sort of thing in defending or defensive ones, but just don't think there's anyone that takes my liking. Same for like
No.
Villa, to be honest. Like Matty Cash actually scored twice in one of these fixtures.
Yeah.
Not the most recent, but the one before that. So
Mhm.
take of that what you will.
I mean,
He could
he
be a half
has
decent option.
he scored this season as well, and
Yeah.
on international break, he scored a couple of weeks before that, so he's got goals in him.
Yeah,
Um,
especially when you need to find a way past this low block if they play it. So he's going to
yeah,
come into it wrapping around the back of it.
yeah, okay. You might be talking me into it here. Uh, and similar to, well, I guess we were talking about the closer games maybe being good for keepers. What about like a Martinez? He hasn't really come up in any discussions all season as an option.
So
Um,
I do agree on that. Like, but I think it's Dubravka over Martinez
yeah,
purely because Burnley, with how they play, probably don't produce enough shots. So it's going to be that situation where it might be a Martinez keeps a clean sheet, but it's 10 points because of no saves and nothing happened. Whereas with
mhm,
Burnley, at least you know they're going to defend pretty deep and well against a team like this. Aston Villa haven't been great with creativity, break down a low block, and if they start shooting from distance, that's sort of free save points for Dubravka if it's on target.
yeah. No, I like that. Uh, so next up, we've got Newcastle. No, not Newcastle. Everton, Crystal Palace. You mentioned pre-show that you were probably going to talk me out of playing any Crystal Palace defenders. So go at it. What do you reckon?
So, a few stats, and like I don't think this will necessarily talk people out of it because of how good defensive they've been this year, and people might just think, "Oh, well, it's Crystal Palace. I'll keep playing those defenders. They're doing well."
Mhm.
But Crystal Palace haven't beaten Everton at home in the past 11 fixtures, and in the past 9 fixtures total. So
Okay.
past 11 home fixtures at Everton, 9 total. You have to go back 17 Everton home fixtures in 1992 for the last time Crystal Palace kept a clean sheet
Oh god. Okay, you've done it. I
there.
think.
So normally it's just a case of, oh, well, it's Palace, they've been performing really well. But when you think, take into account, Everton have looked really, really good in attack this year.
Yeah,
They
it just
didn't
looked
just sit back
creative.
against Liverpool. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They didn't just sit back against Liverpool. They took it to them. It's the best I've seen Everton play against us for ages. Um, so they're playing a very good attacking brand of football, and they're not just, oh, we're going to park the bus against good teams. So they're going to go for it.
Hmm.
So I just think like Everton are going to score in this one based on that historical data, based on how they're playing. Palace have had a couple of slip ups against teams this season, so it wouldn't surprise me if their defenders don't do as well as people think here.
Hmm. And I guess jumping back over to Everton, um, being very good attacking creatively. Grealish obviously driving that. We've talked on previous episodes how he's just a fixture-proof player based on how he
Yeah.
plays. Do you think that the quality of the Crystal Palace defense will maybe kind of take away from some of those fouls that get drawn, or is he just it's irrelevant and he'll still get fouled?
I like the matchup against Munoz, I think it'll be. Yeah, Grealish on the left, Munoz on the right. Yeah. So I like that because Munoz gets high up. So when he's
Hmm.
tracking back, either Grealish has got free space to operate into, and he's going to go
Hmm.
at a centre back, draw them, and then be able to assist, or Munoz will get tracked back, foul Grealish, or get beaten when he comes back around with
Yeah.
the type of dribbler Grealish is. So successful dribbles, fouls drawn as he usually does, key passes, maybe some assists.
Yeah.
So I think he's pretty much a lock. He is most weeks because of how he plays, but this one particularly. I would advise a lot of people, if you're not already, to consider or reconsider two Everton midfielders this week because
Mm.
there's a lack of options that are like standing out. And someone like Dewsbury Hall or Garner, who've been very good in terms of other stats,
Mhm.
are good in scoring stats for Everton that Crystal Palace tend to concede.
Okay. And with, you know, the potential, what am I trying to say? Do you see Everton defense and keepers doing all right in this game?
Same goes. I'm pretty sure I had here somewhere. Let's have a look. Everton have only kept 3 clean sheets in their past 10 home games against Palace, so I think it's going to be like a clean sheetless game, and
Mhm.
both teams are going to score.
Okay. And then I guess who do you see being the scorers in this one? Obviously, Dyer's looked good in
Yeah,
terms of like Grealish and Dyer. There's lots of options there.
yeah.
Um, is just having a look.
I would say Ndiaye, especially because he does accumulate some of those stats Palace concede.
Mhm.
So similar vein to Grealish on the other side, albeit Mitchell is far more defensive than Munoz is. So be
Mhm.
wary of that. He'll have a more difficult matchup, in my opinion. On the other side of things, like you've got your Sar, you've got Mateta. Sar's looked
Mhm.
again great back from injury, so
Yeah.
he could have an influence here. Quite pacey, whereas most of the Burnley defense aren't that pacey on the ball,
Yeah.
so he could get through a lot of that.
Yeah. There's just a comment here that maybe Dewsbury Hall is suspended for 5 yellows. I don't.
Oh, wait, he is too. Yeah. Good for pointing that out. Yeah,
Okay. So we'll
it's
yeah.
insane. He's had 5 yellow cards in the first 6 games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so don't pick
still
him.
managed
But
to
yeah,
score pretty well with all those yellow cards. So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, hold off.
Um,
But
but that does mean that Garner's probably going to have a spot game. Like I'm a little bit worried that Garner at some point gets rotated out, but he's got a lot
mhm,
of versatility to play multiple roles. So, but I think that sort of locks him in because it means someone like an Alcaraz or one of their other attacking options like Diblin. Diblin might start, and they might shift some other things around.
mhm.
But yeah, so yeah, definitely don't pick him. And it's funny because something I probably would have looked into closer to the deadline, but he's currently in the squad you will see for me at the end. Simple shift, he'll just go into Ghana.
Yeah, shouldn't have shown it to no.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
I checked the suspension and injury list leading into lockout anyway, so it would have
Yeah,
popped up,
that's why you're a
as well as
professional.
like the predicted lineups.
Yeah. No, nice. And so Pickford maybe not. Although I guess in a close one,
Yeah,
it
potential
could
for
be
some
a decent.
saves.
Yeah. So Newcastle versus Forest here. Uh, there's Forest have been an interesting one for me. Uh, in terms of obviously change of manager, change of style, pretty drastic change of manager style. Um, how have you seen the change affecting our teams so far, if at all?
Yeah, it just like you used to be able to consider Forest heavily in matchups for how good they were defensively, especially
Mhm.
Sells after the season they had last year. But with the change in style that seems to be happening, I just like think it's best to avoid. And it's more down to like their rotation. So he's Ange is still trying to find his best team. You've seen the likes of like Hudson Odoi and Gibbs White rotated out of the lineup and become victims of that. And who's to say Wood's not next, or like maybe Sells gets rotated out for some reason, someone
Mhm.
else. So I just want to steer clear of them for a good few weeks, particularly in a matchup like this where it's a bit more even. So maybe if you think Sells should start, so maybe Sells is one if you think they might keep it clean here.
Mhm.
Um, but like same goes for Newcastle. It's a weird one this one because two of the better defensive teams, and over their past 12 fixtures, there's only been one clean sheet collectively.
Right.
And there's
Right.
been 50 goals in those 12 games at an average of 4.16 per game.
Okay. So in that case, we're a bit kind of iffy on who will be kind of up front for Forest.
Yeah.
Who do you have for Newcastle then putting them through?
Well, same goes for Newcastle. They've been very rotational or choppy, changey with their front three. So
Mhm.
it's similar in types of these two here with their attacks. I think Gordon's sort of assured now that he's back.
Yeah, and
So
he's
yeah,
probably avoiding the rotations because
mm,
he's been off, like had the 3-match suspension.
for sure. So I would say if you want a really good point of difference, he could be one, given how attacking this fixture's been. He's one I
Mhm.
might even go to as like a
Mhm.
sixth, seventh option that I might just try to risk and gain some points on people. I do
Mhm.
think it's going to be like minimal to do that sort of thing though, because I reckon the top like 4 or 5 players that most people will pick are going to score well. So you're going to get very little difference unless like Gordon scores a hat trick.
Yep. No. And one of the numbers that jumps out here is the goalkeepers for both teams. Like they tend to do well against their opponent. So the likes of Pope might also be a decent pick here.
Yeah, sells a Pope. It's one of those 50-50, like real 50-50s where if there is a clean sheet, you're probably going to come out real good if they
Mhm.
do keep one.
So it's probably going to be like one of them's going to go 20, one will go like 11 or
Yeah.
12. So you just can't, you still be happy potentially, but yeah. Uh, and there's a few other, I guess, Newcastle defenders that are often in contention, like Livramento. Um, who else we got there? Shah, but Shah hasn't played. Shah out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Shah had an injury in one of their games, so then he missed one. I think he was
yeah,
concussed.
that's right. And Walt Maid as well, who's obviously a forward, but potentially someone who they'll be trying to kind of give, I
Target.
guess, consistent minutes to
Yeah.
actually integrate them. So if
Yeah.
that could be another one, but obviously a rarer card coming into the player pool later.
Yeah, rarer, so you might get that Donnarumma effect where like you could play him and you could do really well, but not a lot of people have him. So if he doesn't do too well, then you're sort of stuck. And I don't
Mhm.
particularly like this matchup against bigger centre backs for Forest. And yeah, for now he should be sort of assured to start unless Gordon goes back to striker because Visa's still out.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, nice. All right, going ahead. Next one up, we got Wolves and Brighton. Now, once again, Wolves have been one of those teams where you've kind of been targeting that fixture, but it's a little bit better last week. Um, do you is Brighton a team that you could be kind of using to target a good fixture? Do you think?
yeah, like Brighton do historically score as well.
Mhm.
They've got like 7 goals in the past three, so like I don't think that's an issue of like even the historical data doesn't back it up. Like they're not a bogey team, so I think Brighton are safe to pick from. and that means like Matoma, Minte, both good options. Probably both going to be point of differences. Like Matoma both of them haven't done a lot recently against Wolves, but Matoma for sure has definitely scored a couple of times in the not too distant past. So I'd probably lean, if you're going to pick one, I'd probably lean to Matoma, but I don't mind both as a play because this could like be a big scoring game for Brighton.
And obviously, Minte's a forward in the game. Matoma's a midfielder. So that kind of, we're talking about how there's less midfield options. So yeah, Matoma might be the call here.
Sure.
Like one thing to look at though is since round one, Minte has gone 14, 15, 22, 18, 14.
Yeah,
so they're all like
demon.
solid returns. He one of the games as well, he hurt his back, I think, was it? But he's all clear to play. I really like him in this matchup. So in fact, I think I might have him in. I can't remember if the version of the side I've got up here is going to have him in, but he's definitely come in and out a lot. Again, I think I ask you this every week, but is there anyone from Wolves?
It's just hard to pick from because we've usually discussed they rotate to find their best team, which they still haven't found, and they just like concede too many. Like I know some of their defenders and their keepers have had half decent games here or there, but there's just so many better options until they establish themselves and what they actually want to do. Especially like Strand Larson in and out of the side, where he's like their best player, I would say.
Yeah,
so
agreed. Yeah, and it's just not getting any returns, but obviously not getting any opportunity to get returns. Jumping ahead, next up we have Brentford and Man City. Yeah, the final game. I mean, Haaland's probably just going to be a lock for the season. I would say even in any fixture, he's a lock if he's playing. If he's like 70% playing, probably a lock. But looking at the Champions League midweek, there are a few kind of players who played the full 90 minutes or at least most of the game. In Doku played, I think, was it 60 or 70 minutes. Reinders played the full game. Foden played the full game. And Haaland, I think, played the full game as well, but that's probably less relevant.
So you can a couple of ways of thinking of it. Like Haaland, I would ignore. Like he's just going to play 90. He loves playing games, so he's going to play 90 whenever he can. Foden and the others that played 90, maybe Pep just kept playing them because they were in form and they're going to play again. You never know with Pep. And that if that's the thing, then does that mean Doku got subbed? I didn't watch the game, so I don't know how Doku played. Was he subbed because he was performing poorly and now he's not going to be in the team on the weekend? I sort of need to go check that game because I'm considering Doku, Haaland, Foden, Reinders again. I'm really up in the air with Foden. The thing that makes me want to pick him is in the past two games home games against Brentford, he's scored 5 times, and that's scoring. Like he's got a hat trick and 2 goals in the other one.
Yeah, right.
Whereas Haaland, he's got 3 in their past 3 meetings, irrelevant of which ground it was. So you pick Haaland. It's the same thing every week. You want the best version of Haaland you can possibly have in each team especially when he's got a really good fixture, because everyone's going to play him if they have him. So then you want to get the points advantage from the rarity multiplier. You're already ahead of someone else by just doing that. When he's got less favourable fixtures, maybe it's a bit different. But for a fixture like this, you play Haaland if you've got him. If he, for some reason, doesn't do anything, majority of players are going to suffer from that, and you're still going to score better than most coaches for him because you've got the higher rarity.
Yeah,
so
I think
he's a lock away.
Yeah, the teams that you're competing against every week, if you're kind of taking this seriously, will have worked their way into getting at least some form of Haaland. So you may give up some points to some other teams who don't have Haaland, but they're probably not necessarily going to have the rest of the team locked down to kind of make a difference. What about City's defense? Now, that's something that's also been a bit of a tricky one to pick.
I would not go near the defense. And you know why? Because Brentford have scored in every single game this season.
Yeah, okay.
And along with that, I'm pretty sure I saw that City aren't. Yeah, they failed to keep a clean sheet against Brentford in the past 3 games at Brentford.
Mhm.
So I think a couple of people might go for like Vardiel and maybe Diaz or something like that. But on top of
Mhm.
the fact they could just Pep could just sub whoever before the game's over. He might just close his eyes and pick a defender.
Mhm.
Brentford are probably going to score.
Yep. So does that then rule out Donnarumma because it's probably a game where he's not
Donnarumma's
gonna.
curse to me. So
Yeah.
as
Okay.
far as I'm no, like it's one of those things where are Brentford going to get enough shots for if City concede for Donnarumma to score well enough? Probably
Mhm.
not. But are Brentford going to score? Probably.
Yeah. Okay.
But
And
it's
and
sort
who
of like
scores
means
for
I'm going to go
Brentford?
elsewhere. Thiago's been pretty good. He tends to he's sort of locked away that starting spot now with Dengo's like rotating around. Sade seems like he's sort of locked a spot too. I
Mhm.
would lean towards one of those. I would be more interested in someone like Damsgaard, who tends to provide most of their attack and threat when it comes to supply. So
Mhm.
probably Damsgaard if you're going to play a Brentford player, and I probably wouldn't play a Brentford player.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, that wraps up the fixtures. So we'll close the competition there for entries, and we'll jump into our 5-a-side challenge. Now, I've gone a bit of a iffy kind of mix here. I got absolutely destroyed by you last week. From 5 players, you scored 100.25 points. So that's like
Yeah,
over 20-point average per player you picked last week, which
I
is
just I just managed to like pick all the players that scored all right. Got pretty lucky, and I think that was just my week in general. Got pretty lucky with most of my choices.
yeah. And this week I've kind of I don't know. I've got Minto, who I think is going to go well. Genuinely, Saka again, good option. Probably uh, would have gone Gyökeres up front if I hadn't already played him this season. And he was a player that I told you that you weren't allowed to pick because I lost last week. Would you have picked him? Do you think?
I reckon so. But in saying that, I've gone a very unique sort of pod this week
Hmm.
to get save some players and get some players out of the way that have good fixtures.
Yeah, nice.
Um, so that's sort of how I took my team this week. The good thing about this challenge is you can sort of go different ways every week. Um, so that's the way I've gone this week. There'll probably be another week where a lot of good players have a lot of good fixtures. So you'll see my team heavily stacked in those.
Yeah. Nah, nice. Well, best of luck with it again, and we'll
You
check
too.
back in next week.
I
But
need it for 1 sec. I'll be back.
oh, yep,
Continue though.
yep. So what I'll do then, I'll skip Zonald's team review, and I'll jump into mine. And this is currently who I'm running, but I think there's going to be a lot of changes after my discussions with Zonald tonight. One card which I've been working so hard to get over the week, and I'm pretty happy with is you can see in the top left there. I have an All-Star Haaland now. Cost me an arm and a leg to get, but it's probably one of the most sought after cards in the game, I'd say, apart from obviously his legend, but I don't know if that's been packed yet. But yeah, what are your thoughts on my lineup, Zonda? I don't know. You've already seen a sneak peek of it.
Yeah.
A lot of players you've already talked me out of playing this week. There, well, yeah,
Um,
a couple.
well, it's mainly just the defender. Like, and now that we've had this discussion, I'm sure we were going to do more research before the
Yeah.
lockout. So, and like they could be reasonable play. Crystal Palace could end up getting a clean sheet, and then this might have been a better team to play. I think
Yeah.
it's a good lineup. Most of the players I either have or I've considered. It's
Hmm.
probably just our defense that's like looking a little bit different, and that's just down to I sort of tend to favour historical stats. And
Hmm.
last week it went all right for me doing so. It's not going to work every week though. History is not always going to repeat.
Yeah. And I'll jump back to your side just to so we can run through it. Relatively similar. Obviously, you said Dewsbury Hall's coming out for So Garner was coming straight in.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks to Maxi for pointing that one out. But that'll be a pretty straight swap for now. I'll look a little deeper into things that I may end up changing from two Everton mids. But I do like that matchup, and I think it'll be fairly unique going down that route.
Yeah.
The rest of it, though, pretty much discussed most of them and why I favour a lot of them. Like for the defence, maybe it looks a little bit weird, but heavy on Arsenal, despite the history against West Ham with the clean sheets. Bournemouth in there, I like him for clean sheets. A Sunderland player might not be Hume, but it'll be someone, I reckon. And then Royce, I think a lot of people will lock away Royce now because he's scored well. So if they sort by average, they're probably going to pick him. Decent fixture. A lot of people don't rate United at the moment, so he's going to end up in a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, very good. So that basically wraps up the episode, apart from the wheel spin. So got decent chance of winning this week. We haven't had a massive turnout live, but earlier in the week means that we'll be able to, play catch up and people will be able to watch it at their own pace. So what I'll do is I'll get the wheel up. So we've got 3 packs here. So you've basically, got a 50-50 chance here of getting a pack, which is good effort. So what I'll do is I'll spin this first. I'll spin them all to start with, and then we'll open the 3 packs. So first pack. Going to Tyler, who got in late.
Who's Bryce Cottingale?
Congratulations. Compiling the list for us in the background and making it onto the second pack. And then the last one. I feel like everyone on this board has won at least one this week. It's coming around. Oh, it's going to be tight. Janeth. By a hair. So what we'll do is I'll swap my screen over to the packs. I'll let you pick the... Oh, that's my W side. Ignore that.
Sneak peek.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm interested to know what's happening in that game as well, because there's a lot of pods I picked this week. I know we're not talking AFLW at the moment, but I'm very nervous.
I definitely knew there was a game on. Oops.
All right, so let's get a resolution, a bit of a better shape for everyone. And we'll head down and look at that 3 common all-star packs. So, open the first one. Do you want top, bottom, or middle, Zonald?
I'll go middle.
All right. So, did you say middle, was it?
Yeah. I'll go middle for this one.
All right, I'll go bottom. So, that means that Tyler gets the top row. Start with yours.
Good.
Righto. Dos. And Messier.
Oh, well, not bad.
Baksaki. Feels like there's a lot of players who've come in an update who I just don't know who they are.
You don't know? Yeah.
Petrovic, someone who we have talked about.
Nice one.
Who may
good play this week.
And Adams. All right, but this is for the giveaway up the top 3 here for Tyler. We've got, hopefully we can give away an all-star. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Eze, great start.
Yep, not bad.
Florentino. And then Noto as well. Good options. Definitely some playable. Well, Eze, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Screenshots, so I don't forget. All right. Jump into the next one. So this one is for Melissa, who's kindly been our admin in the background.
And you go for the selection first.
All right. I'm going to stick to bottom every time.
I'll stay middle because I'll hate myself if I change it. There's a
Okay.
all-star there.
So Traore, Wilson, Munitesi, Ollie Watkins. Interesting. Does that change some decisions?
Yeah, especially for a team like a classic team.
Kunka and Caicedo. Decent.
Something that leaves Mel up top.
Oh,
Ooh, Diamond.
I'm gonna leave that one till the end. We'll start with Silver. Krupi,
Could be pretty good for a young player.
Martinelli, and this
Martinelli.
Diamond. Now,
Hopefully someone decent.
Cullen.
Cullen, captain for Burnley, I think he is.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Scores decently in some games.
Oh, could be worth a bit of trade-in value down the line if you need it. Get a screenshot of that one too. And then final pack going out to our mate Janice, who done pretty well from these wheels in a number of them.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get him an all-star. I mean, of course, I'd love an all-star myself. You've got enough all-stars, I think.
Depends. I've only got 2 now.
Now, same rows, do you think?
Yeah, I'm happy with that if you are.
Yeah, same. All right. Silver, Ollie, Dunk, and Broby. All right. For me, Andre. Again, player Raksaki.
Raksaki. He's a good young player.
Yeah, okay, cool. And is that Kepa?
Kepa.
And then for Janeth, got Kusi Asare, Wilcock, and
the all silver
Sangare. Yeah, complete silver. Sometimes you want that, especially if you're playing in what is it, the contender?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, just fill out your squad.
Beautiful.
Nice one.
But that is where we'll leave it. So thanks again for watching. Any final pieces of advice you've got for the people still watching?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much said it all throughout. It'll be a difficult week to select teams, I think, because a lot of the past few weeks there's been a lot of plays where people are locking away, so very similar teams. Whereas this week there's going to be plenty of variety, so we'll see a bigger swing in points, I reckon.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm going to be changing my side about 30 times before lockout, and I can see myself setting an alarm before the game, even though I really shouldn't be getting up.
Case.
But yeah, thanks for watching. Obviously, if you did enjoy this kind of stuff, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really does help us out. We'll be jumping over in the Discord a little bit later as well. Well, I mean, we're basically constantly in the Discord, aren't we, Zonald? So if you have a question, anything pops into your head, just fire it away and I will answer. Then Zonald will give you a good answer. What else? Oh, going forward as well, we're going to run the giveaways slightly differently. So keep an eye on our socials just because we want to get people, I guess, more engaged throughout the week coming into the show rather than just having the chat giveaways. So yeah, keep an eye out for that and we'll be posting in the Discord. So thanks for watching and yeah, good luck everyone.